Hello again. Today I'm continuing my teaching on the end times. There are difficult times for all of us ahead, and maybe even you're living through difficult times right now. We need grace, so my title is Finding Grace to Live in These Difficult End Times. Now, the two parallel scriptures are Matthew 24 and Luke 21. And we find that Jesus taught that there would be wars and plagues, etc. Let me read you from the Passion Translation, Matthew 24 and verse 6. You will hear of wars and revolutions on every side and more rumours of wars to come. Don't panic or give in to your fears, for the breaking apart of the world systems, what a phrase to use, that's exactly so. The breaking apart of the world systems is destined to happen. We can't just pray and stop it. It's destined, it's prophesied. Jesus said it would happen. But it won't yet be the end. It will be the unfolding. Nations will go to war against nations and kingdoms against kingdoms, and there will be terrible earthquakes, horrible epidemics, and famine in place after place. This is how the birth pains of the new age will begin. The King James says there will be the beginning of sorrows. Now, the Greek word for sorrows is odin, Strong's 5604. It means birth pains. So these signs are in fact the birth pains of the earth as it enters into the tribulation period. Now, I'm familiar with that. I didn't really find much out when I read that. I know it quite well. But when I looked at the parallel passage in Luke 21, I found out that Luke 21, and where I usually start, is in verse 25. And I found out the beginning of Luke 21 and verse 25, there's a word there which I hadn't noticed. And the word is a simple word. It's the word and. It says, and there should be signs in the sun, in the moon, and in the stars. Now, this tells us that there will be other signs. Before that verse, there will be other things. So I backed up and I found that there were other signs closer to home than what was happening in the earth and in the heavens. So what were these signs? Have a look with me at Luke 21 and verse 16 and 17. I'll be reading from the Amplified Bible. You will be delivered up and betrayed even by parents and brothers and relatives and friends, and some of you they will put to death. Well, that's great, isn't it? This is what Jesus said would happen. Verse 17, and you will be hated and despised by everyone because you bear my name and for its sake. So this increase in intensity of anti-Christian hatred is another reason for the end time. It's a sign. It's maybe an unrecognised sign. You can see what's happening in the stars in the heavens, and we recognise those things as signs, but this is an unrecognised end time sign. It's another birth pang, another birth pain. We're all going to experience it, and we've got to learn how to live through it. Now, how do we live through it? Well, if you go down a verse or two, Luke explains what we should do. In Luke 21 and verse 19, the King James says, possess your souls in patience. Now, when we see these things happening, we can panic. We get emotional about it, we get worried and so on, and our soul goes into a twist. And we've got to learn to possess our souls in patience. The Passion Translation again says, stand firm with patient endurance, and you will find deliverance for your souls. We've got to learn to keep our soul patient. A good example of this, if you want to know how this works, have a look at the Apostle Paul, because Paul suffered. He had more revelation knowledge than any other apostle. And so that's why he was able to write 2/3 of the New Testament. And we find out in 2 Corinthians chapter 12, we find out that Paul suffered, well, in the 11th chapter, he lists all the things that he suffered. But in 2 Corinthians 12, it says that he besought the Lord 3 times. This is verse 7 and 8. He said there was a thorn in the flesh. Paul was not sick. It was a messenger of Satan. It was an evil spirit buffeting him. Keep on attacking him. He goes to one town, he gets hit, left for dead in one town, thrown outside the town and left for dead. So he was prayed for and he got up. He had marks all over his body. He was injured, but he went on. He knew about this constant attack. And Paul said, please, Lord, I beseech you, beg you, take it away from me. And God gave him the same answer that he's probably going to give us. In 2 Corinthians 12 and verse 9, God answered and said, my grace is sufficient for you. My strength is made perfect in weakness. So the key to living through difficult times is the grace of God. As we go through perhaps family hatred and betrayal by trusted friends, both of which I have experienced and probably you have as well, but where can we get such powerful grace? Now here perhaps is a revelation for you. There's only one place you can get this powerful grace, and that is you must go to court, to the heavenly court. Hebrews 4:16 says, let us come therefore boldly before the throne of grace. Now the throne of grace is in the heavenly court. There are different courts, just like in the system on earth. There are different courts, the criminal court, the civil court, family court, etc. We must go to the court of grace to find help in time of need. Grace is not just a doctrine of God's unmerited love. It's not something of minor importance, as Galatians 2:21 says in the Amplified. It's not something of minor importance. It's something absolutely essential. Without his supply of grace, we cannot live. Therefore, it is imperative that we know how to access the grace court. And I'll be dealing with that in the next few videos.